Hello and what is up YouTube? My name is G3 Iron and today we're going to be taking a look at the Animated Guardian, some diverse options for the floating ghosty boy. Those of you that are as excited as I am to be playing Necromancers and Summoners in the upcoming 3.8 Blight League, we've got good news, and we've got lots of different options to fit the Animated Guardian into our various Summoner and Necromancer setups. Now, for those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. You can go ahead and like, subscribe, and ding the bell to be notified about new discussions just like this one. Those of you that are veterans to the channel, welcome back. Of course, at any point in time, if you'd like to jump ahead or maybe revisit any of our particular discussion points from today, you can do so using any of the timestamps that are placed directly above my slightly necromantic balding forehead, and those are hot linked for you down below in the video description for your convenience. Of course, all of the things that we'll be referencing today will also be hot linked down below in the video description, so that way you can go and do your own future further research on all of the topics that we chat about and reference today. So all that being said, let's get into it. The Animated Guardian. What's he good at? What's he useful for? And how is it that many people use the Animated Guardian? Well, first off, there is a philosophy of use of the Animated Guardian. Much of the time, and I've said this before and I'll say it again throughout 3.8, Necromancers are the Swiss Army knife, as it were, of Path of Exile, where they are an amalgamation, a combination, a collaboration of several different mechanics, of basically every different mechanic that you can possibly get your hands on and try to tweak and use, whether that's for buffing yourself, whether that's for buffing your summons, whether that's buffing your minions, etc. So Necromancers try to take advantage of, and there really literally is almost every sort of build imaginable that takes advantage of a different key node or of a different particular notable on the passive tree that is necromantic or summon in some way, shape, or form. Like if there's a particular keynote out there, chances are there's probably a minion build that tries to take advantage of it somewhere. So the Animate Guardian and his philosophy of use is very, very broad because of this, because you can jam an Animate Guardian on either a 2-link or all the way up to a 4-link onto almost any single build that you would possibly want to use. He can go all the way up to a 6-link and even go and kill Shaper. So there's a couple of different philosophies at play when you're using an Animated Guardian. First off, the Animate Guardian is fantastic as a buff stacking minion to help buff the player. This and the second use, the Animate Guardian is also a fantastic buff stacking minion to help buff other minions. These are the two primary ways that the Animate Guardian sees play and sees activity in Path of Exile. Now, just because these are the most popular ways of using the Animate Guardian doesn't mean that these are the only ways to use the Animate Guardian, but these are the two primary ways that you can use the Animate Guardian, and these are the two primary ways that we'll be discussing about the Animate Guardian today. The third philosophy of use is that the Animate Guardian is a serviceable function or mechanic as a debuff for stacking as a minion to help debuff other minions. So you can stack debuffs using various item combinations on the Animate Guardian to then debuff enemies around you. And then fourthly, the Animate Guardian is serviceable as an augmented damage source. There's even going to be a build that you can jump right ahead to if you'd like to in the timestamps that simply references how somebody set up the Animate Guardian to go kill the Shaper. And yes, that particular build does have videos, full videos showing how he uses the Animated Guardian alone to kill Shaper. The fifth philosophy of use where Animate Guardian actually sees play is that he's an exceptional token of meme builds, and there are several different Animate Guardian meme builds out there. So why is it that he's so diverse and comes up in so many different ways? Well, here's the gem. This is exactly what Animate Guardian does. He can use items that have their item level base from level 33 through 100. He has base minion physical damage. He's also got increased maximum life on the Animate Guardian built into the gem. He's got increased percentage physical damage with melee attacks. A key note here for the Animate Guardian, for those of you that have never used Animate Guardian, this is your first time thinking about playing Necro or Summoner, and you're thinking about using an Animate Guardian. When the Guardian dies, you lose all of the equipped items on the Guardian. Now, something that's really, really cool and really, really special about Animate Guardian is he's literally an animated version of all of the different items that you animate. This is why you see him in so many different philosophies and so many different Swiss Army knife setups. He can be used as a buff, he can be used as a debuff, he can be used as a damage source, because depending on what items you actually equip onto your Animate Guardian, it changes the nature of the playstyle of what you're asking that Animate Guardian to do. Conversely, when the Animate Guardian dies, or if he dies, you lose all of the items that you've equipped onto that Animated Guardian. So, just when you were thinking, I heard you just now, I could hear it in my brain, wherever you were in the world, I heard some of you say, oh, equipping any item to an Animate Guardian, I should equip a Starforge to my Animate Guardian. You can do that, but when he dies and you lose your Starforge, don't come crying to me saying, oh, Iron, you didn't warn me that my Animate Guardian was going to die and I would lose my Starforge. You've been warned. Consider yourself warned. When the Guardian dies, you lose all of the equipped items. This is also limited to one Guardian at a time. At present, we don't have a means of stacking multiple Guardians. It just doesn't exist in the game. You can stack Spectres, you can stack Zombies, you can stack Skeletons, you can stack SRS. We don't presently have a mechanism for stacking more than one Guardian, so you only have one Guardian active at any one point in time. Okay, so that's Animate Guardian. That's the gem itself. Now, there's a couple of different ways to gear this out, either as a party buffer for yourself or for other minions. First off, this is credit to Kayella, who shows us here a couple of different ways to set up a cheap version as a budget party buffer on the Animate Guardian. So you can use Dying Breath as a weapon, which gives you increased aura effectiveness, increased curse effectiveness, and increased damage. Dying Breath is typically incredibly cheap. It's usually like 1C or 1 ALC, depending on the league. And it's an incredibly common drop, which means that you can actually do this in SSF. For the body armor, you typically use Ambu's Charge, which is also a very, very common unique on the drop table, as well as very, very cheap. And that gives your Animate Guardian decent life, decent all resistance for elemental resistance, and also gives you the ability to share endurance charges with party members. And Ambu's Charge also, of course, lets your Animate Guardian actually create endurance charges. So, in other words, what happens is your Animate Guardian generates endurance charges for you and then shares them with you as well. So he's a free source of endurance charges. In the helm slot, you've got Learcast, which gives 15% increased damage, which is fantastic. This is, by the way, a party buff. So Learcast as an item for yourself, you'd probably never want to wear because it doesn't have all of the defensive options that you would need, especially if you are playing hardcore like me in Blight League. But it's fantastic for the Animate Guardian because he's got all of these other sources of defenses, and Learcast acts as a massive party buff for damage for the rest of your party. Gloves, you use Southbound, which gives life to your Animate Guardian, as well as Herald of Ice effect. Shoes are typically recommended either Rainbow Stride, which are cheap for resistance plus move speed on your Animate Guardian, or you can use Victario's Flight, which of course increases your party speed. Now, this is Animate Guardian setup. This is one particular setup as a budget party buffer. Again, all of these uniques are, in general, we don't know what the economy is going to look like yet in Blight League, but in general, these go for like 1 ALC to 1C in general, and that's across multiple different leagues. Now, you can also do this as an expensive party buffer. Again, thanks to Kayella here for showing us this setup. The weapon here, instead of the Dying Breath, is the Kingmaker, which is just utterly insane. It's generally a pretty expensive weapon, so of course you don't want your Animated Guardian to die, which is why we're going to use Gruthkill's Belt, because of course it gives a bunch of life. But for the weapon, we're using Kingmaker because it gives party crit strike multi, culling strike to nearby party members, as well as just everybody near the Animate Guardian has Fortify. So defensively and offensively, the Kingmaker is simply like top tier. It's simply god tier for the Animate Guardian as a party buffer. The body, again, I just mentioned it, the Gruthkill's Belt gives Animate Guardian some damage, but it also gives a bunch of life, which is fantastic for your Animate Guardian. In the helm slot, you typically want to use a rare bone helmet that's fossil crafted with nearby enemies have minus X% to whatever resistance it is that you're primarily dealing damage. You can also, of course, make this physical if you are primarily using minions, or yourself are just dealing physical damage. So that's generally what you want to use there. The reason why you use a bone helmet and not something else is because, of course, it's got minion levels inside the bone helmet, and so you can then stack your Animated Guardian inside that particular helm, which then is going to be a 4-link with probably minion speed or minion damage, along with minion life, along with empower. So you've got this massively leveled Animate Guardian with a ton of life, because remember, the life of your Animate Guardian is built into the skill gem. Yes, you've got other things that you can augment it with items, but it's built in inherently into the skill gem. So the higher level you can get your Animated Guardian, we're talking level 21 through corrupting the Animated Guardian gem. We're talking about getting +2 levels from a bone helmet, which makes it a gem level 23. And then, of course, you've got your actives that are based off of empower, which empower would be, depending on what level of corruption you've got it, at level 3 or level 4. That's either +2 or another +3 levels. So we're talking about like level 25, 26, 27 Animate Guardian here. That is a ton of life, and it is incredibly rare in those scenarios when you are decked out to this extent that your Animate Guardian will ever die. It is much more likely that you will die as the player than your Animate Guardian. That being said, there's always an exception to that. You know, Animate Guardian could derp out. He could accidentally walk inside, you know, some massive AoE degen. I'm not saying that Animate Guardian is going to be your choice to go take on the Uber Elder with all of the various ground degens that are going on. Nonetheless, he's a very tanky boy when you scale him with levels. Gloves are once again southbound for life plus Herald of Ice effect, and then shoes are generally going to be rare shoes, actually, that have got HP plus a bunch of resistance stacked on them. This is the expensive setup if you want to build Animate Guardian as an expensive party buffer. Now, Kaleidoscope has done a great job here of basically laying out exactly why and how you're going to want to use these different options as either a leveling budget version or as an endgame version. So, of course, we've already mentioned the Kingmaker. It gives Fortify in a decent radius that affects both you and your minions, Culling Strike, and able to and a bit of Critical Strike multiplier. I cannot emphasize enough, again, especially for those of you playing hardcore, like just having basically permanent Fortify on you by having your Animate Guardian play near you. Imagine now with the new support gems that we've got for minions, if you also include on your gem setup for the Animate Guardian that he plays defensively and he stays close to you, that's going to be great. You're always going to have Fortify. And then if you've also got skeletons or specters or zombies, if you're using zombies as your meat shield, and they're also set up on those same links, then they're also going to be defensively close to you, which means all of your zombies, all of your tanks around you that are protecting you, your meat shield, your line of defense is also going to have Fortify, which is great. So Kingmaker, again, it's top tier. Unless there's a new unique that comes out in Legion that's basically been specifically designed for Animate Guardian, Kingmaker is still going to be top end, top budget, best weapon in slot for Animate Guardian. The Jagged Fossil Helm, we've already chatted about that you want nearby enemies to be taking either increased physical damage or the minus percentage to resistance. Victorious Flight, because it gives movement speed to you and nearby allies. Again, if we can set up the Animate Guardian to always be close to us now, to always be close to us, not to be derping out all over the place. And Animate Guardian is affected by Convocation, so even if he does derp out, you can use Convocation to call him back to you. You're going to have that increased move speed. Gruthkill's Fur or Belly of the Beast are also options for the Chest Beast. Both give great life. Typically, Kaleidoscope recommends to go with the furs if you can get it. The regen simply is really good. Okay, Mangingord's Vise or Southbound Gloves. Personally, he goes with whatever he can get on the cheapest that has vulnerability on hit, which is, of course, a corruption. The difference here is that it doesn't do much, and vulnerability is a great DPS increase if you're using physical damage, which, of course, the Animated Guardian deals base physical damage. So if you're looking for the Animate Guardian to actually do damage for you, then yes, the nearby increased physical damage taken mod is what you're going to be looking for. Animate Guardian on a cheap leveling budget setup is exactly the same of what we've already gone over. It's Southbound in gloves, it's Ambush Charge or Belly of the Beast in chest, Dying Breath as a decent weapon, and Leercast as the mask. Okay, so I've mentioned it a couple of times here throughout the video. Yes, Animate Guardian can kill the Shaper. You can go watch Bob the Second kills Shaper. That's going to be linked down below in the video description. It's not meta defining, right? Like, you're not going to go watch that video. I want to say it's 12 minutes, right? You're not going to go watch that and go, oh my goodness, this is the new meta for how we ought to kill Shaper, right? It's not the best bossing skill in the game. It's not the best mapping skill in the game, right? Animate Guardian is a part of your Swiss Army knife toolkit as you are building a summoner, as you are playing a necromancer, as you are commanding an undead horde of ghosty boys. Animate Guardian is one of those primary skills or primary tools in your toolbox that you've got to be able to set up and augment the rest of your build. And it's flexible enough that if you need it to deal damage, there's proof that you can do that. There's a paste bin for a POB that is also attached with this particular build and with this particular video. The build author straight up admits the POB on max DPS is 435k Shaper DPS. You can get 1,000,000 Shaper DPS on absolutely terrible gear just with zombies or skeletons. So again, don't hear what I'm not saying. Animate Guardian is not the new meta for killing Shaper. I'm simply saying if you want him to deal damage and be another damage source for your minion army, he can do that. For the Shaper video, this particular user had 260k Shaper DPS with minion life support and a bit less optimal Animated Guardian gear. He uses a Terminus Est, and it's really, really funny to watch. I would highly recommend that you go and take a look at that video. So, Animate Guardian is a very, very flexible gem. It's a very, very flexible skill that you can use for a lot of different setups, whether they be more on the meme end of the extreme or whether they be on the more solid, defensive, regular, reliable end of the spectrum. Thanks so much for watching. How will you use the Animate Guardian in 3.8 Blight League? You might even use him on a build that doesn't necessarily scale minion stuff, just because he's good. I mean, imagine for a minute. So many players nowadays want to go as fast as they possibly can, right? So they try to stack as much move speed as they can on themselves, right? Well, if you simply use an Animate Guardian and you equip him with Victorio's Flight, he's already increasing your move speed, right? It's another 15% increased move speed that you would not have gotten off of your boots. So imagine if you're paying several X for top tier boots with move speed, life, and resistances, and then you also can have another 15% move speed. Imagine if you don't have the money to purchase those several X boots, but you just want to get another 15% move speed. Go pick up a pair of Victorio's Flights that are like 1 alch, throw it on an Animated Guardian, and boom, away you go. What other setups, items, or gems maybe do you want to try on Animated Guardian? What uniques come to mind and go, oh, if I equip this with my Animate Guardian, maybe I can get X, Y, or Z to happen? I've always wanted to try an Animated Guardian with Poet's Pen and see what that does and see what that's like. I don't think it would do anything because you can't really set it up with skill gems. But I think it would be really cool if someday, maybe if I was ever a supporter and I could design something like that, maybe that would be really cool to set up something like Animate Guardian or like a casting Guardian rather than Animate Guardian, where he just casts a bunch of additional spells. Then again, knowing GGG, the servers probably wouldn't be able to handle if we had a spell casting Animate Guardian that was running around casting a whole bunch of stuff. I think it would be really hilarious, really meme-worthy, and really fun. But nonetheless, that's just my own thoughts. Feel free to leave a comment below. I'm sure I screwed up somewhere along the way in this presentation. Feel free to point that out. And as always, I hope that this league, Blight League, is the league that a Mirror of Calandra drops for you. Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.